Hi, good afternoon, 6-4 parents. Mr. Hagedorn here with your weekly update. Couple announcements. Next Friday is track out day. We track out on Friday. All missing work for all classes is due on Wednesday. So all missing work due by Wednesday. Check Power Schools to see what your child is missing. All right, Math 6 next week. We are going to continue talking about percentages. We're going to talk about discounts and markups on Monday. Then we're going to start our study guide Tuesday and Wednesday for percentages and take our quiz on Thursday. Math 6 Plus, we started talking about surface area yesterday and today. We're going to continue talking about that on Monday and then get into some exponent practice. And then we'll have our study guide Thursday, and we're going to take our quiz on that last day, Friday. All right, have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
All right, all families, two hats. First, ELA hat. 2 weeks ago, we did an analytical mini essay that was finalized, and still, if you look at our homework, some people still have not done it. But for those who have done it, we have those graded in the book. I mentioned that essay because next week we are going to do a very similar essay, but instead of the myth of Prometheus, we are doing the myth of Kronos. This is something we've read prior in class. It's a creepy doo-doo age kids. We're also going to be using the same format, introduction with 2 body paragraphs and a conclusion. We're going to be using the first body paragraph with page 51, which is the key elements of mythology, but you cannot use supernatural non-human because, believe me, we've read that way too much. And the second body paragraph is figuring out what the theme of Kronos is. That's basically what we're going to be doing next week, other than we are going to be finishing The Lightning Thief. Your student has to have that book read by Tuesday. We're going to have our final check-in on Wednesday, chapters 19 through 22, and the books are going to be collected on Thursday in class. Now with science, this week we've been doing mass, volume, and density, which is the first of the properties of matter that we've been talking about. We've been talking about physical properties of matter, and kids could not believe how much math goes into science. I just take it for granted that I just assumed they would know that, but they were shocked that we use that much math in science. We are going to continue into some other independent properties. We're going to be focusing on solubility on Monday. And we're going to be doing a Canvas check-in on Tuesday. And then we're going to be investigating some gummy bears using all the different properties that we've learned already. It's kind of like our culminating physical properties activity. That's going to be on Wednesday. And then I get to be a spectator in science and watch Mr. Martin do his thing for the last 2 days in class, doing some guidance lessons with your students. I look forward to seeing him for 2 days. Either way, don't get washed away this weekend. It's going to be wet.
Okay, and finally, a little social studies update for you. So we are in our unit on geography. We're almost finished with it. It runs through the end of next week. And so we've been talking a little bit about the world and how it looks. And then most of last week, we were talking about choices that early humans would make based on the different geographical features, what would make life easier or more challenging. We've now started to talk about migration patterns. And on Tuesday, we played a game outside. And if you haven't heard about what we did on Tuesday, you should ask your student about it. It was a fun challenge of survival. Can they work in small groups, small clan groups where they chose who they wanted to live with? And could they get enough water? Could they build a shelter? And could they find enough food for their clan to survive? It was a challenge. Only one group out of the entire Owls team managed to do it. One of the trickiest things was the food they had to find were those little noodles that are tricolored, and the green ones in the grass are really hard to find. So that was a fun activity to simulate this idea of survival and the resources humans need to survive. We're now moving into the agricultural revolution and how humans learned how to grow their own food and settle down and stop being nomadic. We're going to continue that into next week as we finish off that idea of how a tribe of people will settle and then start to build a civilization and how civilization started to develop out of this. And we'll talk about the first 3. We'll talk a little bit about Mesopotamia, the Nile River Valley, and the Indus River Valley, those early cradles of civilization next week. When we track back in, we'll move on to ancient religions or early religions, and we'll talk about the different kinds of faiths that were started to develop as these civilizations developed. So have a good weekend. We'll see you next week.